later transmitted to the entire world, transforming into a pandemic. It is the RNA virus that transmits through air that is contaminated by droplets and airborne particles containing the virus. Moving on, viruses undergo mutation, changes in the genetic material that leads to changes in the instructions that make the virus. Generally, these variants are weaker, but sometimes they end up being stronger. And some of the variants of concern for coronavirus are alpha, beta, delta, gamma, and the omicron. They have changes in the spike proteins that helps it to bind with the human cell and makes the virus more transmissible. Moving on to the next slide. If a healthy person comes in contact with the virus, it enters into the body through our nose, mouth, and eyes. Once it enters the human body, it starts replicating inside the human cell by making it its host. Then it starts its journey towards the alveoli. It then fills the alveoli with fluid, and that leads to different symptoms. Now, I would like to call my friend Dipshikha for further proceedings.
So now let us begin our discussion on symptoms. Symptoms are bodily changes which provide evidence for the presence of a bodily disorder. Apart from the most commonly known symptoms of COVID-19, like fever, cough, tiredness, loss of taste and smell, some of the recorded population survey suggests that symptoms like sore throat, headache, backache, discoloration of fingers and toes, and redness in eyes is also observed. Asymptomatic patients are able to resist the symptoms because of the presence of genetic factors and the individuality in the immune system, but they are still capable of transmitting the virus to the next person. Now, let us move on to the testing, which comprises of the polymerase chain reaction. In RT-PCR test, there's an RNA strand which starts with a codon AUG and ends with a poly A tail, to which the oligo-DT primer comes in and binds itself. The reverse transcriptase enzyme comes and binds itself to the oligo-DT primer and synthesizes the complementary DNA using DNTPs. After the completion of the formation of the cDNA, amplification using specific primers and tag polymerase is done. The PCR technology uses the RNA fragments from the specimen and synthesizes DNA, and the replication process continues unless and until any virus has been detected. If there is the presence of any viral fragments, then the patient is declared as COVID positive. Moving on to the medication part, the drugs such as remdesivir, Paxlovid, molnupiravir, baricitinib, hydroxychloroquine, and chloroquine are employed against COVID-19 that halt the enzyme, make it incapable of adding RNA fragments, thus stopping the genome replication process. Moving on to the therapies, in anti-inflammatory therapy, colchicine is employed that works against the inflammation which is caused by the virus. In immune-based therapy, antibody immunotherapies are employed in which convalescent plasma is taken from the recovered patients and injected into the patient to induce an hyperactivated immune response to ensure the fast recovery. Also, monoclonal and polyclonal antibodies are injected to ensure an even faster recovery. Now, I would like to request my teammate Arushi to do the further proceedings.
Prevention is better than cure. On your screen are some preventive measures that you must take to keep yourself at a safe distance from this horrendous disease. Finally, isn't this exactly what we said when we got the news of the rolling out of the vaccines? We did. And now, look at the number on your screen. More than 70 million people have been fully vaccinated. Let us now take a peek at the phases of testing a vaccine. Vaccines are extensively tested through several different phases of trials. Preclinical studies, including tissue culture, cell culture, or animal culture. At this stage, the safety and immunogenicity of the virus and the vaccine are assessed. Only when this stage is successful do we move on to the human trials. The human trials start with the phase 1 clinical trials, which are small scale trials in healthy adult volunteers, generally 20 to 100, to assess whether the vaccine is safe in human and the type of and extent of immune response it induces. Phase 2 clinical trials are several hundred healthy volunteers and usually carried out in the target age groups the vaccine is likely to be used in. Phase 2 clinical trials involve the vaccine being studied on a large scale in target areas to understand the natural conditions and make sure that there are no unintended side effects not detected in phase 1 and 2 studies. But please remember, even after you get the jab, you might notice a few symptoms for 2 days. The most common symptoms being tiredness, headache, muscle pain, fever, and nausea, and some lesser common symptoms including chills, fatigue, and severe fever, and on the arm, some pain, redness, and swelling. But please do not worry because these cease to exist within 2 days after taking the vaccine. And after taking a vaccine, continue wearing a mask and maintaining proper distance. Sputnik V, Moderna, and Pfizer have statistically proven to be the top 3 vaccines in terms of efficacy and success, with the success rates of 97.6, 96.3, and 95% respectively. Other vaccines have also proven to be very effective in suppressing the severity of symptoms in case you get COVID and are effective mostly after about 20 days of the second dose. Now, I would like to take a moment to thank all the COVID warriors who have relentlessly and tirelessly worked during this dire time. With this, we come to the end of our presentation. Thank you everyone for your patient hearing. Stay safe. And now we invite the audience to ask us any questions if you have any.
Yes, group 3. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
You people have done a very good job. And now, really a very beautiful presentation of facts. I'd like to ask you certain questions. May I?
Yes, ma'am.
yes.
Please.
So I'll ask you some basic questions like, can you please tell me who discovered the viruses? I think you must have learned in class 11th or maybe class 10th or 11th. Who discovered viruses?
Ma'am, from what I remember, I think it was probably Dmitry Ivanovsky. Ma'am, I assume it was 1890s or 1900. I don't remember the exact year.
Yes, it is 1892. You presented a very nice point there that prevention is better than cure, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Now I'd like to ask that is vaccination, I mean, following that statement, I mean, if you are vaccinated, then are we following
Yes,
that?
ma'am, definitely, because vaccine does help us in suppressing the symptoms a lot. So instead of waiting for the symptoms to risen up and then we'll take the medication, I feel like taking a vaccine in the first place will be always a better option.
Ma'am,
Okay.
and also I would like to add a personal experience from my side. I'm currently COVID positive and I was vaccinated with the first dose, but I received very milder symptoms. But whereas my cousin who was not vaccinated last year, he got COVID and he died. So to greater extent, we can say that vaccination does not ensure that we will not get COVID, but rather we can say that it helps in suppression of the symptoms and the extent to which the disease can affect us.
Ma'am, I would also like to add one point that the vaccines are also helpful for the new variants that are coming up, like Omicron. It has 30 mutations in the spike proteins, which does not also come under the category in which the vaccines we are taking, but it is still helping in suppressing the symptoms that even Omicron is showing.
Okay, my next question is why are the viruses coming up with mutations, a mutated form?
Ma'am, it is not only just the coronavirus. Every virus, while reproducing or while its multiplication process, it has the mechanism of sending the genetic material from the mother to the daughter cells. So the mutations are changes or mistakes that happen in the base pair of the genetic material, the DNA or RNA. And in coronavirus, the RNA undergoes the mutation or the changes in the base pairs of its RNA.
Ma'am,
And
actually,
also, I would like to add one point that is owing to the very short lifespan of the coronavirus, it replicates very fast, and as a result, the mutation process is even more faster. So, due to which we are able to see different variants in world.
all right. Any other reason? Any other reason you would cite here?
I think because we are finding more methods to just eradicate one particular variant. This is just like evolution. We tend to adapt to our surroundings. So as long as we are trying to completely destroy it, it is in order to save itself, it is creating more variants and adapting to the surroundings to more efficiently move from one host to the other host.
It's getting adapted much faster.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any connection with the genetic material? Any connection?
Because it is an RNA virus, so
Yeah, yes, you got the point. Right. All right. Thank you all. Jisa ma'am, can we proceed on to the next group?
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you all. Thank you so much. It was really intriguing to talk to all of you. We'll move on to the next group. Is group number 4. Sapneswar Samal, Swastik Panda, Vishal Hemram. Group number 4.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, dear. Your presentation is visible to us.
Okay, ma'am. Just a second. So is the presentation visible? Please can you?
Yes, dear. It is visible. You can start.
Thank you, ma'am. A hearty afternoon to one and all present over here. I, Sapneswar Samal, along with my teammates Swastik Panda and Vishal Hemram of 11th B, are going to demonstrate through a presentation on the topic coronavirus and intrigued epidemic. Any sort of queries related to the slides displayed are welcome. You can save a question and ask them once we complete our presentation, or ask the question whenever it pops into your mind. Either way, you don't have to hesitate. We will try to pull all stops out and do our level best to clarify your questions. Now, without any further ado, let's start our presentation. The beginning of the global pandemic occurred in China in December 2019, when the Chinese authority notified the world about a virus spreading through their country, originated from Wuhan, a city in China. In a short note of time, it spread to the other countries throughout the world, making the virus a global threat. The virus I'm talking about is severe acute respiratory syndrome related coronavirus 2, shortly SARS-CoV-2. It spread the disease called COVID-19 and is commonly referred as coronavirus. Now let us see what is the structure of coronavirus. First, it has spike glycoprotein. Spike glycoproteins is crucial for binding of host cell receptor to facilitate the entry of host cell. Second is RNA. RNA gives code to host cell to make copies of the virus. Third is envelope. Envelope is a bilayer lipid membrane that protects the virus. Fourth, membrane protein. It determines the shape of the virus. Fifth, hemagglutinin esterase. Hemagglutinin esterase is a glycoprotein that helps the virus in the attachment and the destruction of the host cell. Sixth is envelope protein. Envelope protein interact with membrane protein to form viral envelope. Now, how does it spread in humans? Though there is no such proof of how coronavirus was originated, but according to the most relevant and famous theories, we can say that it was first originated in bats, then from bats to a pangolin. By the way, pangolin is a mammal which is used in Chinese medicine. From pangolin, it was transferred in a man in China. How does it spread in humans? Now, though whenever it is visible or not, but when we sneeze and cough, we releases numerous amount of saliva droplets in the air, and the saliva of an infected person can carry as much as 20 lakh coronavirus particles. This virus can spread up to a distance of 1 meter, traveling with a speed of 300 km per hour. But if you take about in common, if meanwhile someone inhales the dust particle, then there is a high chance of him getting infected. The virus can also rest on our daily use objects like toys, purses, or etc. for a quite few time and can infect us if we come contact with those. Now, I would like to call my friend Swastik to continue the presentation further.
Yes, I am going to tell about how and where does coronavirus affects our body. When coronavirus first enters our body, it is most likely to target our lungs. The reason behind this is the lining of our lungs is done by ciliated columnar epithelial cells, which contain ACE2 receptors. The cells of other organs like brain, heart, etc., don't contain ACE2 receptor. Now you may be wondering what ACE2 receptor exactly is. So let me tell you. ACE2 receptor are thorn-like structure present on the plasma membrane of epithelial cells, which help in the protection of these cells. Now, the membrane of the epithelial cells is semi-permeable in nature, so the virus isn't allowed to go inside it on its own. So the virus has to do something here. So what the virus does is it connects its spike protein with the ACE2 receptor of the epithelial cells and enters into them. Then the virus releases its RNA inside the cell, taking the full control of it. Now it orders the cell to produce its copies using the genomic code of its RNA. In about 2 to 10 days, crores of copies of the virus are made within the cell, and this time period is what we call incubation period. Then, as you can see on the video, the cell explodes, being overloaded with crores of virus, and the virus spread throughout the lungs, affecting other cells too. Our innate immune system then gets activated and starts attacking the virus using various means, like by creating hostile environment. That is, increasing our body temperature. By the time our adaptive immune system also gets activated and starts producing antibodies to fight the virus. These antibodies are also thorn-like structures and get connected to the spike glycoprotein of the virus, making them unable to connect with the ACE2 receptor of the epithelial cells. By doing this, the coronavirus stops dividing. But now the task is to kill the virus. So who does it? Yes, exactly. Our macrophages does it. Now you may be wondering what macrophages are. So macrophages are a type of white blood cell which destroy the pathogens. Now our macrophages that get into action and start destroying the coronavirus by engulfing them along with the antibodies. A fun fact is one antibody can connect to more than one virus at a time, making the work of macrophages much easier. And this is how we can win over the virus and the person gets cured. But what if the virus wins the fight instead? In that case, our body will receive severe damage and the person may even die if not treated immediately. That's all for me. Now I'd like my friend Vishal Hembram to tell us the various symptoms that can be faced by an individual when he or she is affected by the virus. Vishal, please proceed.
Yes, though there can be many symptoms, but we will discuss about most common and prominent one. Fever. The main cause of fever in our body is due to our innate immune system. During the fight with coronavirus, our immune system knowingly increase our body temperature in order to kill the virus and hence make us sick. The other three common symptoms of the virus include problem while breathing, chest pain, and coughing. The reason behind these three is quite similar. It is due to our destroyed epithelial cells and fight between our adaptive immune system and coronavirus. The fluid substance gets accumulated in our alveoli. It blocks the way of our gases exchange in our alveoli, creating the above three problems. If the amount of fluid is high, then a person might even choke to death. Now I will like Swastik to talk about the role of vaccination. Swastik, please.
Yes. Before knowing the roles of vaccine, let me tell you first what vaccines actually are. Vaccines basically contain weakened and inactive pathogen that can be used to stimulate the production of antibodies and hence providing us a immunity against a certain type of disease. Also, vaccines should be taken beforehand, that is, before we are affected by a disease. So, when the vaccine of coronavirus enters our body, uh, our adaptive immune system recognizes the genomic code of the spike glycoprotein of coronavirus provided in the vaccine and hence prepares antibodies accordingly. We also have memory cells. Our memory cells remember the virus. So, when active coronavirus enters our body, then our memory cells quickly recognize it and inform the adaptive immune system simultaneously. Our immune system then sends antibodies to fight the virus and stop it before it can harm us. Now, Bishal is going to tell us the various ways of taking prevention against virus.
Yes. Prevention number one, washing our hands with soap. Soap can destroy the lipid bilayer of the virus, leading it to break and die. But this may take time, so we should continue washing for minimum 20 seconds. Applying sanitizer will also work in the same way. Number two, social distancing. An infectious person can spread the virus to a distance of 1 meter, and we never know if that person is already infected. So by keeping ourselves distant from others can save us from virus. We should also avoid public places with a lot of people. Number three, gets vaccinated. It will help our body in getting prepared to fight with virus in future if needed. Number four, wearing mask. It will save us from inhaling virus containing dust particles and will also prevent us from touching our mouth and nose when we are inside. Number five, consulting an expert. If someone suffers from any symptoms of coronavirus, then they should immediately consult a doctor as they can give the best advice at that situation. Number six, quarantine. If we get infected, then we should isolate ourselves in order to save others from getting infected. So we should always take preventions because prevention is always better than cure. Yes.
Uh, Thank you all for investing your valuable time. I hope this presentation was worth of your time. Just thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, very well presented, Group 4. Can I ask you a few questions?
Yes, ma'am, surely.
Okay, Group 4, you showed a presentation on the structure of the COVID-19.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, let me knowing why this virus has come up with this spike glycoproteins. What do they do with that?
Ma'am, because it helps in binding in the host cell to facilitate the entry inside the host cell. It is
Okay,
a
and
key. It is a key to get inside the host cell.
okay, what more layers do they have besides spike protein?
Yes, ma'am. Can you please repeat?
What else layer do they have inside other than this spike protein?
Sorry, ma'am. I can say that.
Ma'am,
Had
those
this
virus have lipid bilayer on their membrane.
Oh,
okay. And just another question: had this virus is getting auditory canal, the passage, as the passage, would it be getting or able to be establishing another infection? I mean, establishing an infection in the body.
yes, ma'am. If after getting coronavirus, then our body can also affect with
As
other
a,
infection. Yes, ma'am. Like other
you
infection
just
too, like
listen question: had this virus been getting the auditory passage, would it be able to establish an infection in the body?
yes, ma'am, surely.
Yes, ma'am, it can.
Will it? Will it?
Yes, ma'am, it can. Obviously, it will, if not
Please,
stopped in time.
please elaborate.
Ma'am, once the virus enters our body and starts multiplicating, then the crores of virus can easily spread throughout the body and cause various severe problems like chest pain and very other irreversible problems that cannot be treated.
Okay. So what is the target cell of this virus? The target
And
cells are cells, right?
mostly ciliated columnar epithelial cells of the lungs, which
Of the
line the
lung.
lungs.
Why is it lungs? Why is it
Mm,
lungs?
Then because the lining of the lungs cells have ACE2 receptors, which other organs don't have.
Yes, you got the answer now.
Yes,
The lung cells, they have a special kind of receptors to which the spike glycoprotein binds and causes
yes.
that. Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Let's go to the next.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Very good. Group 4, very nice presentation. Now I'll move to Group 5. Group 5, Kiran Kirtika, Arpita Senapati, and Sarmishtha Mohapatra. Group 5, Kiran Kirtika, Arpita Senapati, and Sarmishtha Mohapatra.
Ma'am, am I audible?
Yes, you are
I'm
audible,
visible.
Sarmishtha.
Ma'am, actually Arpita is speaking.
Okay, Arpita, yes, you are also audible.
Ma'am, is screen visible?
Yes, your screen is visible. I think Kiran Kirtika is absent.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Madhushmita ma'am, just I want to say something here. Kiran Kirtika, she is absent today in the group. So Arpita Senapati and Sarmishtha Mahapatra, they are representing. Okay, okay, ma'am.
All right.
All right. Okay, so Sarmishtha and Arpita, you can start the presentation. Your screen is visible to us.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone, respected judges, teachers, and all my dear friends. Today, our group number 5 is going to present a presentation on COVID-19 virus. So let's get started. This is Arpita Senapati, a student of class 11A, DAV Public School, along with my partner, Sarmishtha.
This is Sarmishtha Mahapatra, a student of class 11th. Today we are going to represent about COVID-19 virus.
Let's check the topics to be discussed today. Historic study on epidemic, how is it spread? Characteristics of coronavirus, effect of COVID-19 on human, mutating properties of COVID-19. Is COVID-19 a biological weapon? Mechanism of vaccine, coronavirus versus our immune system, effect on our mental health. So let's get started with the first. Intermittent outbreak disease found and lasted society or the those events shaped economic, political, and social aspects of human civilization. Their effects often lasting for centuries. Of the modern to the principle of epidemiology, prevention, immunization, and treatments. Even
I'm really sorry, I want to interfere here. I think Arpita, you're having a little bit of technical problem, network issue, I think. Would you require some time? Arpita
Yes, ma'am.
and Sarmishta, will you require some time to get it on?
Yes, ma'am.
ma'am, just a second. I'll do it in 1 minute.
If you want, otherwise we'll shift your group to the last. You can speak again. Yes, will it be better? Sarmishta and Arpita. Sarmishta and Arpita, am I audible to you? Sarmishta and Arpita, am I audible to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Will you continue?
Ma'am, I think she's disconnected.
Okay, we'll do one thing. We'll move to the next group. We'll call you after some time. It'll be
Yes,
better?
ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you,
We are
ma'am.
moving to group number 6 right now. There is some technical problem with group number 5. Ma'am Judge, please take a note. We are moving to group number 6 right now. Sakiba Fatima, Swam Pragya and Licensi Ghantayat. Sakiba Fatima, Swam Pragya and Licensi Ghantayat. Group number 6. Group number
Yes,
6.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you can start. You can start here.
Yes, ma'am. Shakiba will say it.
Yeah. Okay, we can see your screen. You can start.
Ma'am, can I start?
Yes, dear, you can start.
Good afternoon, everyone present in this meeting. Respected jury members, teachers, and my dear friends. I, Licensi, welcomes you all to our seminar session. Our topic is Coronavirus and Intrigued Epidemic. My group members are Shakiba Fatima and Soyam Pragya Maharana. What is pandemic? A pandemic is an epidemic of an infectious disease that has spread across a large region, for instance, multiple continents or worldwide, affecting a substantial number of individuals. A widespread endemic disease with a stable number of infected individuals is not a pandemic. Epidemic refers to an event in which a disease is actively spreading, whereas pandemic describes disease that affects the whole country or entire world. Viral infections. Infections caused by the presence of a body are called viral infection. Virus causes familiar infectious diseases such as common cold, flu, warts, etc. They cause severe illness such as HIV, Ebola, COVID-19. Viruses are life hijackers. They evade living normal cells and use those cells to multiply and produce other viruses like themselves. They can kill, damage, or change the cells and make us sick. Different viruses attack certain cells in our body, such as our liver, respiratory organs, or blood. Viral infections can spread through touch, saliva, or air, by biting of mosquito, and by having sex with infected person. Now I would like to call Soyam for further proceedings.
The origin of coronavirus was first from Wuhan, a city of China with a lot of pneumonia cases. It usually circulates in animals and can be caused to humans because of certain mutations in virus. It affects both animals and humans. There can be cases where virus affects animals. These are more lethal forms of coronavirus since they can lead to pneumonia, which can be life-threatening. The virus consists of protein spikes, envelope, and genetic material. The three most common inlays by the virus are SARS-CoV, MERS-CoV, SARS-CoV-2. How is virus transmitted? When you are traveling to areas of the outbreak of virus or have been in contact with anyone traveling from those areas, it can be in form of the infected person through sneezing, coughing, or talking, or touching the infected person. Incubation period after exposure for the symptoms to develop, it takes 5 to 6 days, but ranges from 1 to 14 days. Its symptoms are fever, fatigue, respiratory system, cough, sore throat, and shortness of breath. In severe cases, it can lead to pneumonia, organ failure, or death. About 80% of the people recover without needing special treatment. Some, like older people and people suffering from chronic respiratory diseases, heart disease, cancer, diabetics, high blood pressure can lead to at high risk.
Diagnosis for COVID-19 virus. Number one, rapid diagnostic test based on antigen detection. This test detects the presence of viral protein, that is antigen, expressed by COVID-19 virus in a sample from respiratory tract. The antigen detected are expressed only when the virus is actively replicating. The second method for this test is rapid diagnostic test based on host antibody detection. This test detects the presence of antibodies in the blood of COVID-19 infected person. The strength of antibody response depends on several factors like age, medications, infections, severity of disease. Okay. Then comes treatment. If the symptoms are cold or flu, then it can be treated in home by drinking fluid and taking plenty of rest. If the symptoms feel worse than a common cold, contact your doctor. He or she may prescribe pain or fever medication. If you are having trouble in breathing, seek immediate medical care. Some important preventions against COVID-19 virus are: wash your hands thoroughly for 20 seconds and use alcohol-based sanitizers in the absence of soap and water. Eyes, nose, or mouth a lot. If possible, avoid being close to people who are sneezing or coughing. And lastly, wear mask whenever you are going outside. Now comes vaccination. What does vaccination actually do? After vaccination, your muscle cells begin making S protein pieces and displaying them on the cell surfaces. This causes your body to create antibodies. If you are later becoming infected by the COVID-19 virus, these antibodies will fight against it. Some of the methods by which we can boost our immunity naturally are increasing fruit and vegetables intake, probiotics-rich food, pickled or fermented food, and vitamin D3.
On March 11, 2020, the Director General of the World Health Organization declared the international spread of coronavirus a worldwide pandemic. The Centers of Disease Control and Prevention defines epidemic as an unexpected cases in a specific geographical area. Epidemics can occur when an infectious agent suddenly becomes much more prevalent in an area, when an outbreak spreads throughout an area. Pandemic is defined as the widespread of a new disease. As COVID-19 is a worldwide spread disease, therefore is referred as pandemic rather than an epidemic. Last but not the least, after such a pandemic situation, we must follow the guidelines and protect ourselves from COVID-19. Thank you for your patient hearing.
Yes, group 6, is it done?
Group 6, is it done?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. A very well presentation. And yes, can I ask?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
All right. Okay, Fatima, please respond.
Yes,
What are the symptoms of COVID-19?
Ma'am, the basic symptoms are like common cold and fever, and if we go on other symptoms like severe symptoms that can be problematic breathing, and other symptoms, loss of taste or smell, skin rashes, etc. And it will be difficult for those people who are suffering from other diseases previously, and this much.
Can you tell me why people like those who suffer from diabetes or maybe heart disorders, they are having a very higher risk state if they are getting this COVID? What is the reason?
Mm,
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Some technical mishap. Jisa ma'am, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible. Maybe there is a problem with group 6 only. Anyone from group 6, if you are clearly audible to ma'am, can answer the question. Ma'am, can you please repeat the question for them?
So that the people, can you hear me, group 6? Fatima, Swayam Pragya, licensee. Yeah. So my question is that people, those who suffer from like they have a disorders like diabetes or maybe heart disorders, or they are maybe somebody suffering from hypertension, they are a higher risk. Okay, health risk is there when they are getting COVID-19. Why is it so? Do I need to repeat my question again? I mean, do I need to repeat?
I think it's because of maybe they're having low immunity power because they are
Okay.
already suffered from a height other diseases. So
All right. All right, ma'am. Let us move to the next group.
Okay, ma'am. We'll be moving to the next group. The next group is group 7, Sampada Satpathy and Subhalakshmi Naik. Group 7, Sampada Satpathy and Subhalakshmi Naik. Are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes,
Share your
ma'am.
screen. You can share your screen, dear. Yes, it is visible. You can start. Your screen share is stopped now. Again, you share. Yes. Yes, you can start.
Good morning, respected teachers and my dear friends. I am Subhalakshmi Naik from class 11B.
I am Sampada Satpathy from class 11B, and this is our topic, coronavirus and intrigued epidemic.
This is the content of our presentation. Introduction. Viruses are microscopic parasites generally much smaller than bacteria. They lack the capacity to thrive and reproduce outside of the host body. Viruses are infectious agents with both living and non-living characteristics and can infect animals, plants, and even other microorganisms. Viruses lack metabolic machinery of their own and are totally dependent on host cell for replication. They cannot be grown in synthetic culture media. Antibiotics mostly do not work on viruses. Example, coronavirus or COVID-19. How did coronavirus get its name? The International Committee on Taxonomy of Viruses announced severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2 as the name coronavirus on 11 February 2020. This name was chosen because the virus is genetically related to the coronavirus responsible for the SARS outbreak in 2003. Coronaviruses are a large family of viruses that cause illness ranging from the common cold to more severe diseases. When viewed under a microscope, coronavirus appear to have a crown-like structure, and in Latin, word corona means crown. This is why the virus is referred to as the coronavirus. Beginning of the coronavirus. The virus was first identified from an outbreak in the Chinese city of Wuhan in December 2019, and attempts to contain it there failed, allowing it to spread across the globe. The World Health Organization declared a public health emergency of international concern on 30 January 2020 and a pandemic on 11 March 2020. As of 17 January 2022, the pandemic had caused more than 328 million cases and 5.54 million deaths, making one of the deadliest in the history. Now I request my friend Sampada to proceed the presentation further.
So this is the arrival of the coronavirus in India. The first cases of COVID-19 in India were reported on 30th January 2020 in 3 towns of Kerala. Among 3 Indian medical students who had returned from Wuhan, the epicenter of the pandemic. Second wave beginning in March 2021 was much more devastating than the first, with shortages of vaccines, hospital beds, oxygen cylinders, and other medical supplies in parts of the country. By late April, India led the world in new and active cases. On 30th April 2021, it became the first country to report over 4 lakh new cases in a 24-hour period first time. So these are the variants of COVID-19, Alpha, Delta, and Omicron. Alpha. Alpha was the first of the highly publicized variants. Alpha first appeared in Great Britain in November 2020 and infection surged in December of that year. It was believed to be 30 to 50% more contagious than the original SARS-CoV-2 strain. Vaccines are effective in preventing severe disease and hospitalizations in alpha cases. Delta. Delta was first identified in India in late 2020. It soon spread throughout the world, becoming what was the predominant version of the coronavirus until Omicron took its place in mid-December. It's estimated that Delta causes more than twice as many infections as previous variants. All three vaccines in the US are considered highly effective against severe illness, hospitalizations, and death from Delta. No vaccine is 100% effective. Omicron. Omicron became a variant of concern after it was identified in Botswana and South Africa in late November. Omicron carries an abundance of mutations. Omicron is more transmissible than Delta. Not yet clear. Early cases identified among people in South Africa were mild, but most of the diagnoses were in young people.
Some of the main symptoms of coronavirus are common symptoms are fever, cough, loss of taste or smell, and some serious symptoms are shortness of breath, loss of speech or mobility, and chest pain. Some of the preventive measures that you can follow are maintain a safe distance from others even if they don't appear to be safe. Wear a mask in public, especially indoors when physically distancing is not possible. Choose open, well-ventilated spaces over closed ones. Open a window if indoors. Clean your hands often. Use soap and water or an alcohol-based hand rub. Get vaccinated when it's your turn. Follow local guidance about vaccination. Cover your nose and mouth with your bent elbow or a tissue when you cough or sneeze.
Vaccination program. India began administration of COVID-19 vaccines on 16 January 2021. As of 17 January 2022, India has administered over 1.59 billion doses overall, including first, second, and precautionary doses of the currently approved vaccines in India. 89% of eligible population has received at least one shot and 65% of the eligible population is fully vaccinated. Vaccination program for children from 14 to 16 years old started from 3rd January 2022.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
With this, we wind up our presentation.
Very nice presentation, Group 7. Can I ask you a couple of questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you talked about vaccines so well. And now tell me, students, that how many doses of vaccines do we actually take?
2 doses of vaccine.
2 doses, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Why is it so? Why do we need 2 doses?
Ma'am, first dose is sort of like increasing our immunity power, and second dose is a booster dose.
Okay, after how many days of first doses we need to have the second dose? What's the gap?
28 days.
Is it same for all the vaccines?
Yes.
Okay, what are the different types of Indian originated vaccines, you tell me?
Covaxin.
Okay, so how is it made? Do you have any knowledge of it?
No, ma'am.
I mean, what is a principle of making that vaccine? Like any vaccine we make, what is the principle of making the vaccine? I mean, what are we taking as the in that vaccines? What is that?
Antibodies.
Sorry?
Antibodies are going into our body which fight the different type of viruses.
Okay, so is that vaccine a form of antibody, or it's a form of antigen, or it's a form of what is it actually? Is it
Covaxin is a form of antigen.
So what kind of antigen are we taking it into our body? Okay. Okay, then. Thank you. Ma'am, let us move to the next group.
Yes, ma'am. We'll move to the next group now. Group number 8, Dattatreya Patnaik, Ronit Mahakul, Mitesh Raman, Aman Mohanty. Group number 8, Dattatreya Patnaik, Ronit Mahakul, Mitesh Raman and Aman. Yes, Aman. Very good. You are visible now. You can share your screen here. Yes, we can see your screen. You can start.
Okay. Ma'am, is the screen visible?
Yes, your screen is visible. You can start.
Okay. A very good afternoon to one and all. I'm very much glad to be here in front of respective judges, teachers, and my adorable friends. With my group mates, and also very much well pleased of being the part of this seminar. Hope you all are fine and fit and fine in this ongoing pandemic. And also it is directly relates to our topic, COVID-19 and intrigue. So now it is time for the presentation of the interesting and entertaining characters. Dattatreya Patnaik, it's me, Mitesh Raman Bhutia, Ronit Mahakul, and Aman Mohanty. Now let us have a look on the contents. First of all, we'll start with the introduction part. Then our main topic is why COVID-19 is declared as intrigued, and that's all. So first, the introduction part. Coronavirus. Co for corona, V for virus, D for diseases. Coronavirus COVID, a large family of viruses that cause illness ranging from the common cold to more severe diseases such as Middle East respiratory syndrome MERS-CoV and severe acute respiratory syndrome SARS-CoV. A novel coronavirus nCoV is a new strain that has not been previously identified in humans. According to WHO, a Chinese traveling in Thailand was the first confirmed case of COVID-19 infection outside China in 13 January 2020. In USA, first COVID-19 in January 2020. In India, first COVID-19 case reported on 30th January. Coronavirus are the large family of viruses that cause illness ranging from the common cold to more severe diseases like MERS-CoV and SARS-CoV. The most infected countries from coronavirus are USA, Italy, France, Germany, and China. Here comes the most important part. Why COVID-19 is an intrigue till date. Several dominant hypotheses exist, but still lacks of sufficient evidence to explain the cause of crisis. Experts have investigated in the Chinese city Wuhan, where the outbreak is widely believed to have started. They reported that it was a zoonotic transmission, which means a spread of virus from animal to humans. With some external reason, a naturally emerging virus that was studied inside a lab and leaked. A virus that was produced as a result of experimentation in lab. The scientists warned that the more time that passes, the more challenging it will be to track down the origin of COVID-19. In instance, antibodies for the virus eventually disappears. So researchers hoping to trace cluster of infection around the start of pandemic and work within a limited time frame. Although we are already in the phase of vaccination, but still we are not 100% secure because according to the WHO, these vaccines can only create such antibodies that can show a limited protection level against COVID-19. Now I would like to hand over the further representation to my friend Aman Mohanty.
Good afternoon. Why COVID-19 is declared as pandemic? The WHO declared a public health emergency of international concern on 30th January 2020, declared it as pandemic on 11th March 2020. As 20th January 2022, the pandemic has caused more than 399 million cases and 5.56 million deaths, making it one of the deadliest in the history. COVID-19 symptoms ranged from undetectable to deadly, but most common include fever, dry cough, and fatigue. Severe illness is more likely in elderly patients and those with certain underlying medical conditions. Now, I would like to hand over the rest of the presentation to my friend Ramit Mahakul.
Socioeconomic effects of COVID-19 are like it has already affected the world economy and damages the global market share. The world are feeling the most and worst effect of loss of billions of dollars. It led to the following two phenomena: the ominous phenomenon of poverty and the ominous phenomenon of unemployment and damage to small and
unstable jobs, daily wages, and seasonal businesses. We must keep in mind that global threats and opportunities must come together. And the global reconciliation, like the changing the concept of power and politics, the outbreak of the coronavirus posed a serious challenge to global policy making. Some of the most important are as follows: coordinated and integrated management in times of crisis, and pay attention to the effect and political consequences of decisions, and improving citizen databases and system integrations. And the symptoms of the coronavirus, which are seen in most of the people suffering from corona, like headache, fever, certain loss of taste or smell, cough, sore throat, and difficulty in breathing and muscle pains. And the symptoms according to WHOs are like most common symptoms like fever, dry cough, tiredness, and the less common symptoms like sore throat, aches and pains, diarrhea, headache, loss of taste or smell, a rash on skin, or discoloration of finger or toes. And the serious symptoms like difficulty in breathing or shortness of breath, chest pain or heart failure, or loss of speech of movement. Now I'd like my friend Aman Mahat.
COVID-19 transmission. We know that the disease is caused by SARS-CoV-2 virus, which spreads between people in several different ways. The virus spreads mainly between people who are in close contact with each other. The virus spreads from an infected person's mouth or nose in small liquid particles. The virus can also spread in crowded indoor settings where people cannot to spend longer period of time. People may also become infected when touching their eyes, nose, mouth after touching the surfaces or the object that has been contained by the virus. Research is also underway to study the virus variants that are emerging way, some of them are transmissible. Now I would like to hand over the rest of the presentation to my friend, Mr. Raman.
Daily routine prevention from COVID-19. Wash your hands regularly with soap or alcohol-based hand rub. Maintain at least 5-meter distance among the people. Avoid touching your face. Cover your mouths and nose while coughing or sneezing. Stay home if you feel unwell. Avoid contact of infected person. Practice physical distancing and avoid mass gatherings. Sanitize your hands and disinfect frequently with spray and wipes. Now let's see here what COVID-19 does to your body. Infection. Viruses enters the body generally through the mouth or nose, and from there it directly moves to the alveoli, which is present inside the lungs. And once the virus enters, it uses its spike protein to hijack cells by making copies of itself, and at last when the RNA has entered the cell, it kills it and starts attacking neighboring cells. Immune response. In the process of hijacking cells causes inflammation in lungs, which triggers on immune response. As a result, fluid accumulates in the alveoli, causing dry coughs. Severe symptoms. The immune system that responds to inflammation in the lungs can cause cytokine storm. This runaway response body's own cell than to the virus it's trying to defeat, and is thought to be the main reason for admission of people in ventilators. And at last, both acute respiratory distress syndrome (ARDS) and high altitude pulmonary edema (HAPE). Now let's see how does coronavirus affect the body. Headache, fever, cough or sore throat, runny nose, breathing difficulties, anosmia, pneumonia, kidney failure. Now at last, I would like to hand over the
Now here we are at the conclusion part. So prevention is better than cure. That's why stay safe from coronavirus and save yourself and the rest of the world. At this time of pandemic, our health is the first priority. So stay indoors as much as possible. Go outside if it's too urgent. Always wear mask if you go outside, and wear mask under your house if you feel sick. Maintain social distancing, use sanitizer and liquid hand washes. Thank you.
Very good presentation, Group 8.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
And can I ask you a few questions?
Yeah, sure, ma'am.
Okay, someone of from you talked about cytokine storm. Any one of you could elaborate that part? Cytokine storm, what is it?
Sorry, ma'am, not audible.
Someone from your group talked about cytokine storm, right, as a part of the immune response. So could you please elaborate what is this term? What's the meaning of the term cytokine storm? What is it?
Ma'am,
okay, you just have cytokine storm. No, but you are aware of what are cytokines? Are you aware of that?
Wow.
Yes, anyone from you can answer. Are you aware of
Mama, can I say?
Yes.
Okay, Mama. I mean, COVID-19 is an infection accompanied by an aggressive inflammatory responses. So, with the release of large amount of pro-inflammatory cytokines in an event, so that is, I think, so known as cytokine storm.
Yes, sometimes dangerous consequences are also there in on our body. Can you give me one example, one consequence of cytokine storm in our body? Maybe due to result of this COVID-19. Sometimes cardiac disorders are there, like cardiac disorders, I won't say, it would be cardiac failure sometimes also happens due to as a cytokine storm. Okay.
Yes,
Right, very well presentation. Thank you.
thank you.
Ma'am, let's move to group number 9.
Yes, group number 9, Nigam Kumar Malla, Rotesh Kumar Pradhan, and Rohan Das. Group 9. If you're ready, kindly tell me.
Yes, ma'am. We're ready.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you can start. You can start your presentation, group 9.
Ma'am, please make me the.
Yes, just a minute. You can start presenting. Yes, we can. Yes, your seminar is visible now. You can start.
Ma'am, is my screen visible?
Yes, it is visible. It is visible. You can start.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone, esteemed teachers and my dear friends. Welcome to this virtual platform of seminar. I, Rotesh Kumar Pradhan, along with my teammates, Nigam Kumar Malla and Rohan Das, going to elaborate on the given topic, that is coronavirus and intrigued epidemic. Coronavirus, or we can say COVID-19. Here CO stands for corona, V stands for virus, and D stands for disease. And 19, as we know, it is originated in 2019. They are generally an infectious virus, which are caused by SARS-CoV-2 virus. There are family of viruses which are ranging from common cold to several viral diseases. The first novel coronavirus was detected in Wuhan city of China in December 2019. And the official name of COVID-19 was given by WHO on 11th February 2020. Now, why coronavirus became an epidemic? It became as pandemic 11th March 2020. Now, what is a pandemic? A pandemic is a global epidemic, an epidemic which spreads over more than one continent, or we can say it is a sum of both epidemic as well as outbreak. It is also as it takes more number of lives, and also it was spreading over a large area in a short period of time. Here you can see in the graph, the red color curve show the first spread pandemic, means more number of people are affected in a very short duration of time. While in the lower green color curve, it shows less people are affected as compared to the first spread pandemic. So why coronavirus became as a pandemic? As it was fully sure that the illness was very severe and it was spreading over a wider area in a very short period of time. Coronavirus is generally a droplet infection as it spread through breath, cough, and contact. And also, it is not very different from the influenza virus that attacks to our body, and hence the immune system has a predictable response towards it. So this was all about the introduction to coronavirus. Now I request my friend Nigam to proceed forward. Nigam, please.
Thank you, Rutesh. So, corona isn't the name of a single virus. It is the name of a family of viruses. In fact, the common cold we experience is also a type of coronavirus. A virus is really just a haul around genetic material, a few protein, arguably not even living things. It can make more of itself by entering the living cells. This virus is the severe acute respiratory syndrome related coronavirus 2, as my friend Rotesh said, can spread through droplet infection and it enters our body through our nasal cavity or other openings. Its destination sites are the intestine, the spleen, or the lungs, where it can cause have the most dramatic effect. The lining of the lungs consists of billions of epithelial cells. Corona connects to the ACE2 receptor of an epithelial cell of the lungs and injects the genetic material inside the cell. The cell is ignorant of the fact of infection and just follows the instruction of copy and reassemble. They need fill up with hundreds of corona particles until it explodes and infect other cells, including the immune cells, and create confusion and overacts them to act as bloody murderers. The immune cells, while they are to protect you, can actually be pretty dangerous to you and need tight regulation. The immune cells mostly communicates through cytokines. Due to confusion, the immune system goes into fighting frenzy and use more of the immune cells than requirement, causing wastage of resources. Neutrophils and killer T cells are the two cells which goes into wreak havoc. Neutrophils are great killing machines which release enzymes that destroy as many friends as enemies. And the killer T cells usually order infected cells to commit suicide. Confused as they are, they start ordering healthy cells to kill themselves too. This might get so bad that can cause permanent irreversible damage to the alveoli, leading to lifelong disabilities. In most cases, the immune system slowly regains control and the patient recovers. But in more severe cases, billions of epithelial cells have died, causing the breakdown of lungs' protective layer. That means the alveoli can get infected by the bacteria that aren't a big problem. Patient may get pneumonia, breathing gets difficult, and patients need a ventilator to survive. In this situation, immune system is weak. You can see in the animation, the effect of corona is less, but due to suitable conditions, bacteria rapidly multiplies and enters the blood and overruns the body. If this happens, death is very likely. Now we'll see in the next slide some symptoms of corona. The persons affected by corona may get headache, fever, sudden loss of taste or smell, throat, with so that's about the symptoms. Now I request my friend Rohan to carry on the seminar.
Thank you, Nigam. We came across two famous variants these days in India, the former Delta and recently Omicron. The highly infectious Omicron coronavirus variants causes less severe disease as it is less mortal than Delta, and hence Delta is more dangerous virus, particularly for those who are not vaccinated. A vaccine is a bio-acquired immunity to a particular infectious disease. It is often made from weakened or killed forms of the microbe, its toxin, or one of its surface proteins. For example, tetanus, diphtheria, mumps, measles, polio, etc. No vaccine is 100% protective. People can get COVID-19 even after vaccination. A COVID-19 vaccine can prevent you from getting COVID-19 or from becoming seriously ill or dying due to COVID-19. Each COVID-19 vaccines causes the immune system to create antibodies to fight COVID-19. The main types of COVID-19 vaccines currently available in the US are mRNA vaccines, Pfizer BioNTech or Moderna, protein subunit vaccines, vector vaccines, Johnson and Johnson Johnson. The vaccines already approved in India are Covishield, Covaxin, and Russian-made Sputnik V. Of these, Covishield accounts for over 90% of the doses given so far. India also approved Zika vaccine, the world's first DNA vaccine against COVID, which is yet to be available. Some of the reported side effects to COVID-19 vaccines have mostly been mild to moderate and short-lasting. They include fever, fatigue, chills, headache, muscle pain, diarrhea, and pain at the injection site. These side effects usually last a few days and go away on their own. Now I request Nigam to conclude this presentation. Nigam.
Thank you, Rohan. So to conclude, I'll say that this virus, corona, especially Omicron, is more contagious and less motile, but we shouldn't be careless about that. If get neglected, it may take about the form of the first pandemic. And why is it so bad? Because if the number of infected people rise rapidly, the healthcare system won't be able to handle it, and many people will die untreated. So we should follow the government guidelines and wear mask and should make sure to take vaccine. And we should also follow a social vaccine, that is, do not getting infected and not infecting others. Thank you, sir. Now any of you have any queries, please feel free to ask. Our member will be very pleased to answer that.
Well done, group 9. And really your presentation is
Thank you, ma'am.
information rich.
Thank you, ma'am.
I would like to ask questions. There is a very similarity in the symptoms of the common cold, like somebody would suffer from rhinitis.
Yes,
and there is also similarities between common cold and the COVID-19. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yet there are also certain differences. Now just
Yes,
pick up differences? How can somebody differentiate between a common cold and
Ma'am, in coronavirus, if a person is affected by corona, then he may have he doesn't have runny nose. If a person is having runny nose, then it may not be corona. And there are other certain similar symptoms also, but this is the difference between a corona, and a corona may have a severe symptom rather than in case of common cold. And
Ma'am,
there
in
is
common cold,
loss of
in common cold there is no loss of taste or smell, but in corona
Yes,
there is
sir.
a loss of smell or taste, and it spreads rapidly. I mean, we can get it by we can know it by seeing the surrounding of it. Like common cold doesn't spread so rapidly and cause a lot of people infection.
It is very contagious.
COVID-19 is much more
Yeah.
contagious than common
Yes,
cold.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. Ma'am, let us proceed towards group 10.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Group 9, Group 10, Sachita Sahu and Afrin Kausar. Group 10, Sachita Sahu and Afrin Kausar. Kindly be ready. If you're ready, Sanchita Sahu and Afrin Kausar. Group 10.
Yes.
Okay.
Ma'am, am I audible?
Yes, yes, Sachita, I can see you. And you are audible also.
Ma'am,
Where
am
is
I audible?
Afrin? Yes, you are. You can share your screen.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I would like to just take off for a minute only. There is a little bit of information that I need to pass, and if you allow me for 1 minute, ma'am.
Okay, okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Meanwhile, they'll be sharing their screen. Just 1 minute. You can. Yes,
right.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll be joining just for 1 minute.
Okay, okay, ma'am. Sachita Sahu and Afrin, your screen is visible. You can just share it now.
Yes,
we will wait for 1 minute. Ma'am is having some work just now. Then we'll continue. I'll just tell you when to start. Okay, your screen is visible.
Okay, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Jisa, ma'am. Now we can start.
Yes, okay, ma'am. Sachita and Afrin, you can start with your process.
Ma'am, is the screen visible? Is the slide visible?
Yes, yes, your screen is visible. We can see the slide. You can start.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, respected teachers and my dear friends. Myself, Sachita Sahu of 11B with my classmate Afrin Kausar, and today we'll be speaking a few lines on one of the most discussed topic, COVID, an intrigued epidemic. So what exactly coronavirus is? Coronaviruses are a common family of viruses. The basic definition tells us that this infection causes this causes infection in the nose, sinuses, and throat, with complications ranging from mild to severe. Corona, meaning crown, refers to the appearance of coronavirus, which it gets from the spike proteins sticking out of it. Basically, we can see over here that the spike proteins are a part of the virus, which helps the virus to get attached to the host cells. The good thing about coronaviruses is they cause mild infection, like majority of them cause mild infections, but a few of them cause serious rare infections like SARS and MERS. Now coming on to the history of COVID-19, as we all know, Wuhan, the city where the novel human coronavirus was first identified by the WHO in early January 2020 as SARS-CoV-2. And by the end of January 2020, around 300 people were infected with this novel virus in Wuhan. The first ever COVID-19 case was reported in India on 27 January 2020. Subsequently, countries worldwide reported similar suspected cases. On 11th of March 2020, the WHO declared a COVID-19 pandemic, which brought the entire world to a standstill, as you can see here in the picture. The never heard words like quarantine, lockdown, social distancing became regular household terms as we faced the first ever pandemic. Now, coming on to the origin of SARS-CoV-19, some scientists believe SARS-CoV-2 to be a spillover of an animal coronavirus, bat specifically, and later, while other scientists still believe in political theories that the virus is an outcome of a laboratory accident. One common feature of SARS-CoV-2 is that just like other viruses, it mutates as it infects people over time, which results in new variants. Like, how are these different variants formed? Like, just like other viruses, coronaviruses have RNA, ribonucleic acid, in which they store all the genetic material. When the viruses infect us, they attach to our cells with the help of spike proteins, as we discussed before, and make copies of their RNA, which helps them spread. If there's a copying mistake, the RNA gets changed. These changes happen because the virus is infected with a mutant RNA, which causes the virus to mutate.
Yes, Sachita. Sachita, am I audible? Sachita, am I audible to you?
This meeting is being recorded.
Yes, Sachita, you can continue.
Ma'am, Afreen is supposed to say.
Afreen, you can continue, dear, and please change your slides. Your first slide is only visible to us. Kindly please change your slides. Afreen, you can speak.
Thank you, Sachita. A lot of variants of coronavirus have arisen since the past couple of years. The Alpha variant was first observed in United Kingdom in May 2020. The next variant was the Beta variant observed in South Africa in August 2020. The Gamma variant was first observed in Brazil in November 2020. The variant which caused serious concern is the Delta variant observed in October 2020 in India. It spreads way more easily than previous variants and causes severe illness and deaths. It reduces the efficiency of vaccine and broke through infections fully vaccinated people. The latest variant is the Omicron variant, which is seen in multiple countries since November 2021. It spreads even more easily than previous variants, including the Delta variant. Due to comparatively small number of cases, the severity of illness caused by this variant is still unclear. Though it broke through in people who were fully vaccinated, but vaccines are effective in preventing severe illness, hospitalizations, and deaths. How does this deadly virus spreads? When a person infected with COVID-19 coughs or sneezes, they emit respiratory droplets that can travel to a nearby person and enter via mouth, eyes, or nose. These particles have spike proteins that attach themselves to cells covering the lining of eyes, nose, mouth, and throat. There they set up shop and hijack your cells to make more virus, which then spreads to adjacent cells. In some people, their bodies successfully successfully defend themselves and they experience a mild illness. In at least 20% of infected people, the virus moves lower into the respiratory tract, and that's when you could experience irritation and a dry cough. But if the virus makes it further down into your lungs, all the while hijacking cells to reproduce itself, it can cause it can cause inflammation leading to serious conditions like pneumonia and acute respiratory distress syndrome, ARDS, where the lungs stiffen and fill with fluid. The lungs are unable to absorb oxygen properly, leading to shortness of breath and, in severe cases, respiratory failure. When people experience complications with COVID-19, it's often because their immune systems have become overactivated. Difference in the strength of individual's immune system is the most probable reason why two equally healthy people can contract the virus and experience various levels of symptoms. The symptoms of coronavirus can range from very severe, mild, to even asymptomous. Some symptoms which are found in infected people are cough, fever, cold, sore throat, body ache, nausea, fatigue, and shortness of breath, and sometimes the loss of smell and taste. To protect ourselves from this virus, we must follow some preventive measures. We must wear masks, especially indoors or when physical distancing is not possible. We must open well ventilated spaces over the closed ones. When sitting in a room, we must keep the windows open for the air to pass. Covering our nose and mouth with bent elbow or a tissue when we cough or sneeze is very important. Cleaning hands often with soap and water or an alcohol-based hand rub is very effective. Maintaining a safe distance from others, even if they don't appear to be sick, is a good preventive measure. Since a year, many vaccines have been available to boost the immune system, like the Covaxin, Covishield, Johnson & Johnson, Moderna, Novavax, Sputnik V, etc. all over the world, and millions of people are already vaccinated. We have learned about the severity of this virus. So thus, it is very important for us to understand that we must appraise our habits and maintain an optimistic balance and healthy lifestyle so that our immune systems be strengthened to fight such diseases. With this, I sign off. Thank you.
Yes, very nice presentation, Sanchita and Afreen.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Sanchita and Afreen, can I ask you a few questions?
Sure, ma'am.
You come to know about, you gave some examples of vaccines. Can you please repeat all those names?
Yes, ma'am.
All the names of the vaccines that.
Ma'am, Covaxin, Covishield, Moderna,
Okay.
Novavax, Sputnik
Pfizer.
V,
Is there any
Johnson & Johnson.
between the design of the vaccines, or all are same? All are based on a single technical principle, I mean, while designing the vaccines?
No, ma'am.
The principles are different? Are they different?
Yes. Yes,
Can you
ma'am.
cite some of the examples, like what the scientists use while making the vaccines? Some examples, like scientists might be using the attenuated vaccines, attenuated strains of the viruses, or maybe scientists might be using a modified spike protein in some uh, other different kinds of viruses. Can you give some examples? Do you have any idea on it?
Ma'am, mRNA is different.
mRNA of what?
And
mRNA of what is different?
ma'am, mRNA of the dead virus.
Is that mRNA?
Um, mRNA,
Actually, the
as
job.
far as I know, mRNA is present in different vaccines, but I can like elaborate it. I can't elaborate about it much.
What actually vaccines do in our body? What kind of immunity do they provide? Are you aware of the
Ma'am, they
difference?
produce ma'am, they produce artificial antibodies, antibodies against COVID-19.
The production of antibodies in our body, right? Which help us to fight against
Yes, ma'am.
particular viruses
Against
arrival.
COVID.
Great response. Yeah, great vigor, we say. Yes. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Move to the
Yes,
next.
ma'am. We'll move on now. Yes, ma'am. We'll move on now to group 12. Group 11 is absent. Group 11, Ayush Bardhan Das is absent. Hence, we'll move to group 12. Okay, ma'am? Madhushmita, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So, group 12, Sayoni Jena.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sayoni
Yes,
Jena.
ma'am.
Yeah.
Kindly share your screen. Yeah. Can you say, I can see you. Kindly share your screen.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we can see it. You can start.
The name which even made the terrorists to tremble in fear, the name that completely affected the economy of many countries, was just a simple mixture of spike protein and viral RNA, coronavirus. Good afternoon. Of coronavirus. Beginning with the past. The first ever coronavirus was discovered in 1920s in domesticated chicken. Later, the first identified human coronavirus was detected in 1965 by June Almeida and David Tyler, who also named it as coronavirus due to its crown-like structure. Talking about the timeline of coronavirus, it took hundreds of years to coronavirus to create a global level crisis ranging from 1920s to 2019. The COVID virus or SARS-CoV-2 belong to genus beta coronavirus, which has an origin from subfamily Coronavirinae and family Coronaviridae. Moving on to the present. Severe acute respiratory syndrome, coronavirus 2 or COVID-19 is an emerging global health emergency, which was originated in Wuhan in late 2019. But how does this virus appear like? Coronavirus is a single-stranded RNA virus in which the RNA genome is kept very protected in the viral envelope. The protein, the membrane protein, and the spike protein serve as the primary support to the virus, essential for viral replication and binding to the host cell. Moving on to the core of the virus. The blueprint of the virus is RNA. The nucleoprotein binding the RNA help the virus to retain its structure and enable replication. And what if we come in contact with this virus? SARS-CoV-2 is very good at infecting new cells. Entering the respiratory tract through our nasal or buccal cavity, it enters the alveoli where the spike protein gets binded with the human cell where the viral envelope merge with our cells, resulting the viral DNA entering the ribosome as molecular message and leading to the formation of more viral RNA copies. The copies then result in the formation of new virus, which can infect the neighboring cell as well as the neighboring people when exposed while sneezing or coughing. Even rhinovirus cause cold, but why the cases went worst due to coronavirus? The answer is mutation. Talking about virus, they are the simplest being in the world, having a sheet of protein surrounding some genetic material, either DNA or RNA. The only motto of virus is to reproduce more of itself. Talking in particular about SARS-CoV-2, the genetic material is RNA. The RNA is made up of molecules that can be represented as series of letters as shown in the figure of the RNA. Each of this code make one specific protein that act for a specific function of the virus. Every time a virus infects a person, it uses their cell to replicate its complex codes again and again, but eventually causing some error, either by altering the sequence or by adding or deleting a letter. And this silly mistake or error lead to a constructive or destructive path called mutation. The slightly altered virus is called a variant. As I mentioned, mutations are either constructive or harmless or destructive, leading to the origin of variant of corona, like the alpha variant, gamma variant, and delta variant, including Omicron. But why is Omicron given the special treatment by promoting it over national and international television? There are at least 36 amino acid changes in the spike protein of Omicron and 50 in all, whereas Delta variant has 9 mutants on the spike protein. But what if we are infected by this deadly ghost? The common symptoms of coronavirus are runny nose, sore throat, fever, headache, cough, short breathness, and some chilling sensation. In these the symptoms of common cold, how to confirm if we are suffering from SARS-CoV-2 or COVID-19? Here are some tests to confirm that the presence of COVID-19 virus. Antigen test and RT-PCR test. What is antigen test? Presence or absence of antigen, right? These tests are based on antibodies. 3 variants of antibodies are used in this state. Starting with the primary antibody, the labeled one, which bind with the protein of virus if present in the sample. The second set of antibodies does the same but are immobilized. On the test pad, the third set of antibodies are secondary antibodies, which can bind to the part of the primary antibodies. When the virus containing sample is placed on the test pad, it gets binded with the primary label antibodies, which get later captured by immobilized and secondary antibody, resulting in the visibility of the visible test line, which are the primary antibody, which are immobilized, and the control line, which are the secondary antibodies. And this result in the positivity of coronavirus. But what if the virus is not present in the sample? If the virus is not present in the sample, there is only the visibility of control line, which result that the virus sample, the sample is negative. Coming up to the RT-PCR test, the sample from the person is collected and specimen of the swab is sent for the test. In the initial stage, the viral RNA is isolated from the protein and other component. Then the RNA molecule should be converted into its complementary DNA by the process of PCR. But as we can reverse the transcription, the process is termed as reverse transcriptase, or the test is termed as reverse transcriptase polymerase chain reaction. Real-time RT-PCR is used by the amplification of target sequence of the RDRP gene, the E gene, and N gene. The first step include reverse transcriptase. Reverse transcriptase then add DNA nucleotide for the synthesis of complementary DNA of the viral RNA. Separation of the RNA-DNA hybrid are essential for the activation of DNA polymerase and simultaneous inactivation of reverse transcriptase. PCR consists of a series of thermal cycles consisting of denaturation, annealing, and extension. Denaturation consists of heating the chamber to 95 degrees Celsius, which is necessary for the denaturation of dsDNA template. During aniline, the temperature is lowered to 58 degrees Celsius, allowing aniline of the forward primer to its complementary part of the single-stranded DNA template. In the extension step, the DNA polymerase synthesizes a new DNA stranded complementary to the DNA strand. By adding the nucleotide for the reaction mixture that are complementary to the template in the 5' to 3' direction. After the first cycle, the dsDNA target is obtained. Following denaturation and followed by annealing, the Tachman probe to its complementary part of the target DNA is attached. Followed by extension. Repeating the same cycle again and again, we can detect the infectious nature of the virus. More is the number of cycle, less is the infectious nature of virus, and less is the number of cycle, more is the infectious nature of virus. Thus, we can say the number of cycle is inversely proportional to the infectious nature of the virus. But as we say, prevention is better than cure. Moving over to the prevention. Here are some preventional methods for avoiding COVID-19 or SARS-CoV-2. Washing our hand regularly, maintaining social distance, maintaining social distance of minimum 2 meters, then checking our body temperature regularly, wearing a mask, sanitizing and avoiding gatherings. But is prevention enough to overcome COVID-19? Here is a more efficient way to prevent coronavirus is vaccination. Looking forward to the mechanism of vaccination, once our body is exposed to the virus, the B cell present in our body remember the threat. Most of the leading SARS-CoV-2 vaccine consist mRNA vaccines. This is faster than the traditional vaccination in which our body forms similar spike protein for a mock drill in which our B and T cells are trained. And the B and T cells are trained and can prevent further viral attack by fighting against them. But the major concern is how to dispose the wastes that are collected during the treatment of COVID-19. Disposal of medical tools used during COVID-19 is the most essential part of the fight with COVID-19. Garbage contaminated with blood fluid or the other contaminated infectious material become bigger concern for hospital. 6 times as much as the medical waste were generated by hospital. So what should we do to dispose them? The best way to dispose them is to sterilize and destroy them. The person who is involved in this should wear appropriate gear, including boots, apron, long sleeve gloves, thick gloves, mask, and goggles or face shield. The waste should not be disposed with the normal waste or should not be dumped in water bodies. Coming to the conclusion, there are over 3.89 crores of cases have been filed for COVID-19 in India itself. So how to prevent it? If we know corona, then we can say no to corona. The more we neglect, the more we'll suffer. So for preventing the corona, we need to cure it from the initial state to avoid the suffering in the future. Thank you.
Okay, ma'am. Yes, thank you. It's a very well presentation, Sayoni. Ma'am, let us move to the next groups.
Okay, ma'am.
Jisa, ma'am, can you hear?
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. We'll move to group number 13 now, Muskan Agarwal.
Yes, ma'am.
13. Muskan, are you ready?
Yes, ma'am. 1 minute.
Yes. Can you share your screen, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we can see it. You can screen share and start. We can see your screen, dear. Yeah, thank you. You can start. Muskan, we are not able to hear you.
Ma'am, am I visible?
Yes, you are visible and you're audible too. Start.
Just when we thought everything was back to normal, we have a sudden spike in the number of COVID-19 cases again. Why is this happening? Let's take a look on the case scenario to understand this better. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome you all. My name is Ms. Agrawal and I am student pursuing science from DAV Public School, KALINGA. I am going to talk about coronavirus and integrate epidemic by outlining what is epidemic and highlighting few points about this topic. Epidemic. A widespread occurrence of an infectious disease in a community at a particular time is called epidemic. Talking more about the topic, in December 2019, there was a cluster of pneumonia cases in the city of Wuhan in China. Cases have been reported visiting or working in a seafood and live animal market in Wuhan. Investigation has found that the disease is caused by the newly discovered coronavirus. COVID-19 spread through China and to the rest of the world. On 30 January 2020, the World Health Organization declared public health emergency of international concern. Let us come to next point. What is coronavirus? Coronavirus is a large group of virus. It consists of core of genetical material surrounded by a lipid envelope with protein spikes. It has the appearance of crown. Crown in Latin is known as corona, from which this virus got its name. In humans, it causes respiratory infection ranging from the common cold to more severe diseases. This include SARS-CoV was first found in China in 2003, MERS-CoV was first found in Saudi Arabia in 2012, SARS-CoV-2 that caused COVID-19 was first reported in China in 2019. Now, from where do this virus came? It is known that the viruses circulate in a range of animals. Sometimes animals spill over and could be due to a range of factors such as mutation of virus or increased contact between humans and animals. For example, MERS-CoV is said to be transmitted from camel, SARS-CoV from shaved cats, SARS-CoV-2 is known to be transmitted from bats. Now, talking about how this infection is transmitted. This can be from person to person through droplets. When an infected person releases these droplets through coughing, talking, or sneezing. Talking about what are its symptoms. The incubation period, which is the time taken from the exposure to the development of symptoms, in average 5 to 6 days, but can range from 1 to 14 days. Some common symptoms are fever, fatigue, respiratory symptoms like cough, sore throat, shortness of breath. Some people can face loss and skin rash. In more severe cases, there could be pneumonia, organ failure, and sometimes death. Some people groups are at risk, like older people with underlying medical problems, chronic respiratory disease, obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, cancer, etc. Now talking about how this mutation became an epidemic. Here are two graphs. The first one shows the number of coronavirus cases in India by age group. And the second one shows how deaths follow infection numbers in India's second wave. Talking about the first graph, highest affected age group is 31 to 40 years. Lowest affected age group is above 90 years. Second highest affected age group is 21 to 30 years. This states that 21 to 40 age group people have to take care of themselves and have to follow all the COVID rules properly. Heading to second graph, it says the history has been repeated. As there was decrease in number of COVID cases, everything was going back to normal. But people started avoiding COVID rules and the whole cycle started all over again. So the second wave became more dangerous than the first wave. This states that the infected people should take proper care of themselves and recover themselves from this infection so that in this time period of second wave, the death rate of people can be decreased. Next, how can we tell that whether someone is infected or not? This infection is tested by reverse transcriptase polymerase chain reaction, generally known as RT-PCR. This test identifies virus based on genetic fingerprint and a blood test that can check for antibodies against virus, which can show that someone was infected in past. Now, I will focus on what is the treatment for it. Isolate yourself in a well-ventilated room. Use a triple layer mask. Both caregiver and patient may consider using N95 mask. Take rest and drink a fluid to maintain hydration. Follow respiratory etiquettes at all times. Hand washing with soap or clean with alcohol-based sanitizer. Don't share personal items with other house members. Monitor oxygen saturation with oximeter. Ensure cleaning of surfaces in room. Monitor temperature daily. Connect with physician if any deterioration of symptoms is noticed. Now let us look at another aspect of how to prevent it. Prevention. Covering your mouth and nose by coughing with tissue and throwing tissue in a closed bin immediately. Wash your hands regularly with water or alcohol-based sanitizer. Maintain 1 meter distance from people. Use of mask, PPE. It is important to stay home if you are unwell or call medical professional. If you have fever, cough, difficulty breathing, seek medical care and share your travel history or contact with unwell people. In some areas, government have implemented specific physical and social distancing measures to prevent the spread. The most important is vaccination. Getting vaccinated against COVID-19 can lower your risk of getting and spreading the virus. Vaccines can prevent serious illness and death. All steps have been taken to ensure that vaccines are safe and effective. If you already have COVID-19, you should still get vaccinated. Thank you and have a nice day ahead. Stay home, stay safe. If anyone has any question, I will be glad to answer.
Yes, Muskan, a very nice presentation and a very enriching presentation also with a lot of facts. And thank you for this unique presentation. Jessa ma'am, can we proceed?
Yes,
What's the next group?
Yes. Group 14, Bismaya Vidyadhar. Group 14, Bismaya Vidyadhar. Yes, you are audible, dear. Kindly share your screen.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we can see your screen. You can start.
A hearty welcome to everyone present over here, respected jury members and my dear friends. I wish things were back to normal again, a phrase that became quite popular in the last year. With rising cases is roughly in 215 countries, stay-at-home orders put in place to control the spread of COVID-19, having testing people physical and mental health. Isolation and drastic change has left people longing to return to their normal life before the virus spread. But what exactly was a normal? So the contents are COVID-19 virus, age factors, COVID variants, mental health, and vaccination. A rising topic of discussion since early 2020, coronavirus COVID-19 has spread all over the world. The coronavirus has infected millions of people so far all over the world. In addition to that, millions of people have lost their lives to it. Ever since the outbreak, researchers all over the world have been working constantly to develop vaccines that will work effectively against the virus. We'll take a look at the coronavirus vaccine that is present today. Vaccines have the ability to save people's life. Developing the vaccine for coronavirus has the coronavirus outbreak has challenged the whole world constantly. The experts and authorities are working to develop the vaccine. Therefore, we can also do our bit and adopt preventive measures to limit the spread of this disease. The major goal is to get the vaccine to everyone so that we can go on and about our normal lives. People of all the ages can be infected by the COVID-19 virus. Older people and younger people can be infected by the COVID-19 virus also. Older people and the people with pre-existing medical condition have such as asthma, diabetes, and heart diseases appear to be more vulnerable to become severely ill with the virus. You can expect your current strong feelings to fade. The pandemic is over, but stress won't disappear from your life. When the health crisis of COVID-19 ends, continue self-care practices to take care of your mental health and increase your ability to cope up with life's ongoing challenges. Our mental health plays an important role in this situation. During the COVID-19 pandemic, we may experience stress, anxiety, fear, sadness, and loneliness. So we should take some steps to overcome this. We should get busy, get enough sleep, eat healthy, and relax. Communicate with others, avoid tobacco, alcohol, and limit screen time to avoid mental stress. Vaccination against COVID-19 can lower our risk of getting spread into virus, as vaccine plays a major role in this situation. The coronavirus outbreak has challenged the whole world. Constantly, the experts and the authorities are working to develop vaccines. Despite the mass isolation, lockdowns, vaccine, and distance, more than 10,000 people in India test positive per week. Remote work and online evacuation are performed. COVID norms have now been taken. So let us be more vigilant than ever and perform our duties to fight the virus. As always, we'll hope for the better future. At last, I would like to say that stay positive, test negative. Thank you.
Thank you, Vishma Vidyadhar. It's a very well presentation. Ma'am, let us proceed towards group number 15.
Yes, ma'am. Group 15, Alipta, Priyadarshini, and Sriyanjali. Alipta, Priyadarshini, and Sriyanjali, group 15.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Group 1, just a minute, group 1 and group 5, you will be called next. So kindly get ready. Group 15, Alipta and Sriyanjali, you can share your screen. Alipta, am I audible to you? Kindly share your screen.
Sriyanjali will share the screen, so she needs a minute.
Yes.
Ma'am, is it visible?
Yes, it is visible. You can start. It is visible. You can start.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone, respected jury members and teachers and my friends. I am Alipta Priyadarshini of class 12B, representing group 15, and my group member is Sriyanjali. We are going
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, Sriyanjali, say.
I need one second.
Yes, you can. Meanwhile, you can continue. While she's sharing the screen, you can continue, Alipta.
Yes, ma'am. We are going to present the topic coronavirus and intrigue epidemic. Ma'am, actually, she was gonna say right now.
Okay, we'll wait. Shranjali, if there is any problem, kindly discuss.
Yes, ma'am, I'll share it now.
Okay, please continue. Shranjali, can you please share? Yes. Yes, we can see your screen right now.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, you can continue.
Let's start from the very base, viruses. Viruses are non-cellular parasitic entities that cannot be classified within any kingdom. In fact, they exist in a sort of netherworld between a living organism and a non-living entity. Living things grow, metabolize, and reproduce. In contrast, viruses are not cellular. They do not have a metabolism or grow and cannot divide by cell division. They can copy, replicate themselves, but they are they're entirely dependent on resources derived from their host cell to produce progeny-viruses. They are made up of pieces of genetic material such as DNA that's enclosed in a coat of protein. Viruses are very small infectious agent, and a viral disease is any illness or health condition caused by a virus. Some of the diseases are respiratory viral disease, hepatic viral disease, cutaneous viral disease, etc. Now we are going to talk about coronavirus, which is a type of respiratory viral disease. Coronavirus. If we have an overview about coronavirus, it is a large group of viruses that causes disease in animals and humans. In animals, coronaviruses can cause diarrhea in cows and pigs and upper respiratory disease in chickens. In humans, the viruses can cause mild respiratory infections like the common cold, but can lead to serious illnesses like pneumonia. Coronaviruses are relatively simple structures of spherical shape and coated with spikes of protein. These spikes help the virus bind to and infect healthy cells. Now, if we talk about the breakthrough of human coronavirus, human coronaviruses, first characterized in the 1960s, are responsible for a substantial proportion of upper respiratory tract infections in children. There are 7 different types of coronaviruses found in people. They are given in the table. They usually cause mild colds in people, but the emergence of the severe acute respiratory syndrome epidemic in China in 2002 to 2003 and the Middle East respiratory syndrome on the Arabian Peninsula in 2012 show they can also cause severe disease. The SARS epidemic was a dramatic reminder that animal coronaviruses are potential threats to the human population, although the exact mechanism of species-to-species spread of the SARS coronavirus remains obscure. This theory came true in the present time. Yes, there has been a new emergence of a new type of disease known as COVID-19. COVID-19. In early 2020, after a December 2019 outbreak in China, Wuhan, the world recognized the infectious disease COVID-19. COVID-19 is a disease caused by SARS-CoV-2 that can be triggered what doctors call a respiratory tract infection. It can affect your respiratory tract or lower respiratory tract. Infections range from mild to deadly. The transmission. COVID-19 spreads from person to person. In some circumstances, they can contaminate surface they touch. People who are closer than 6 feet from the infected person are most likely to get infected. The power of mutation. As it is normal for a virus to mutate while infecting persons, several variants are now spreading, some proving to be more contagious as well as more deadly than the original virus. Throughout the pandemic, scientists have kept a close eye on variants like alpha, beta, gamma, delta, omicron, and lambda, etc. The symptoms of COVID-19 are fever, coughing, shortness of breath, trouble in breathing, fatigue, sore throat, etc. While the virus can sometimes lead to pneumonia, respiratory failure, heart problems, liver problems, septic shock, death. Many COVID-19 complications may be caused by a cytokine release syndrome or a cytokine storm. That is when an infection triggers your immune system to flood your bloodstream with an inflammatory protein called cytokines. They can kill the tissue and damage your organs. In some cases, lung transplants have been needed. Now let's talk about the measures taken for COVID-19. The government of India started thermal screenings of passengers from China and also from other countries. RT-PCR test and antigen test to trace the disease in people has been issued rapidly. As the situation became grave, the government recommended social distancing measures and initiated travel and entry restrictions. Throughout March 2020, several shutdowns and business closures were initiated, and by the end of the month, the Indian government ordered a widespread lockdown. An economic package was announced in May 2020. Simultaneously, campaigns were created, websites, helpline numbers for people were initiated. Commenced in India on January 16, 2021, and the government is urging all of its citizens to be immunized in what is expected to be the largest vaccination program in the world. Covishield, the name employed in India for the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, and Covaxin, the homegrown vaccine produced by Bharat Biotech, are provided. The Indian government has also developed an efficient digital system to address and monitor all the aspects of vaccine administration. COVID-19 vaccination as on 23rd January 2022 is 160 crore, around 160 crore. What is the level of COVID-19? Not all infectious disease terms are created equal, though often they are mistakenly used as interchangeably. This is because the definition of each term is fluid and changes as disease become more or less prevalent over time. An epidemic is a disease that affects a large number of people within a community, population, or region. A pandemic is an epidemic that spread over multiple countries or continents. An endemic is something that belongs to a particular people or country. Now, whether should we call a COVID-19 an epidemic or a pandemic? Now, as we know, during the early stage of present COVID-19 situation was seen in Wuhan, China, where it spread like a wildfire. Till that time, it's an epidemic. Now, when it's spread from country to and reached all across the globe, we say that the epidemic turned into a pandemic. On 11 March 2020, WHO declared novel coronavirus disease COVID-19 outbreak as a pandemic and reiterated the call for countries to take immediate action and scale up the response to treat, detect, and reduce the transmission to save people's lives. We know a few of respiratory viruses that were introduced into the human population, swept across the globe, and transitioned into endemic circulation, usually with annual wintertime peaks in incidence. The example most commonly invoked these days is the 1918 flu pandemic caused by H1N1 influenza virus, but it has been long enough that we experience such a distinct pandemic situation. If we were to talk about present situation of the pandemic, currently the highly transmissible Omicron variant of COVID-19 is driving an unprecedented surge of infections globally. New variants like Omicron are a reminder that the COVID-19 pandemic is far from over. The active cases are 21,87,205. That makes it up to 5.57%. The death cases are 4,89,409. That makes it 1.25%. And the discharge or migrated cases are 36,56,650. That makes it up to 93%. New variants like Omicron are a reminder that the COVID-19 pandemic is far from over. Now, let's talk about the possibility of COVID-19 pandemic changing into an endemic. The expectation that COVID-19 will become endemic essentially means that the pandemic will not end with the virus disappearing. Instead, the optimistic view is that enough people will gain immune protection from vaccination and from natural infection such that there will be less transmission and much less COVID-19 related hospitalization and death, even as the virus continues to circulate. It's hard to anticipate what the timeline will be for the expected shift of COVID-19 to endemic. It's dependent on factors like the strength and duration of immune protection from vaccination and natural infection, our patterns of contact with another. So the patterns will likely differ considerably from what we saw with the other pandemics because of the heterogeneous responses to COVID-19 across the world, with some engaging in zero COVID policies, others with limited responses, and widely variable vaccine availability and uptake. But for us, COVID-19 has a great possibility of being an endemic because till now we don't see its end. But presently, we should take all precautions as we can, like wearing masks, maintaining social distance, and not going outside if it's not necessary. With this, we'd like to conclude. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a very beautiful presentation. And thank you, Alipta and Srihanjali. Ma'am, can we move on to the next group of participants, those who were left in the beginning?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'll move to group 1 now. Adyasha Patnaik, Shrutin Das, and Akanksha Behra. Group 1.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, you can share your screen now and you can start.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, is it visible?
Just a minute, it's coming. Yeah, we can see your screen now. You can start. You can start.
Yes, ma'am. I'm just. Ma'am, is it visible now?
Yes, yes, dear, you can start.
Sorry for the inconvenience in the beginning. Good afternoon, one and all present over here, respected teachers and dear judges and all my friends. I'm Shrutin Das with my group going to present before you a topic about coronavirus as an intrigued epidemic. Let's begin our presentation. So my group in controlling outbreaks due to novel respiratory viruses. There are resources attached to each module to help you dive further into the topic. The learning objective of this whole presentation is to describe the fundamental principles of emerging respiratory viruses and how to effectively respond to the outbreak. Let's move further. Why corona is a pandemic and not an epidemic? A pandemic is the occurrence of a disease that affects many people over a wide range of area. Epidemic is a sudden outbreak of a disease in a certain geographical area. A pandemic is basically a global epidemic. The coronavirus outbreak has been labeled as a pandemic by the WHO because of the alarming levels of the inaction of the virus all over the world instead of a certain area. It was first started in China, but later it spread throughout the world. Let's move further. You can see two graphs visible on the screen. The first graph shows the number of cases in different continents of the world with varying months. You can see the maximum number of cases are in Europe, North America, and Latin America and Caribbean. In the month of July, the cases are generally higher in several continents, whereas in January, the cases are generally low. In your right hand side, there is visible a map where you can see different countries having a maximum number of COVID positive cases, with USA at its top with a 6.9 lakh COVID positive cases. Other countries like UK, Brazil, Iran, India, Japan, and Russia have COVID positive cases less than 2 lakh. Now let us talk about the history of coronavirus, which we have divided into 3 different parts. First one is the evolution. Scientists first identified a human coronavirus in the late 1965. It caused a common cold. Later that decade, researchers found a group of similar human and animal viruses and named them after their crown-like appearance, and that's why it is referred to as corona. The origin, which is the second part, says that experts say SARS-CoV-2 originated first in the bats. That's also how the coronaviruses behind Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, MERS, and Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome, SARS, got started. SARS-CoV-2 originated in the China's Wuhan market during the end of November 2019. The third part comes to the outbreak. On 31st of December 2019, WHO was informed about the cases of pneumonia of an unknown disease in the Wuhan city of China. A novel coronavirus was identified by the case by Chinese authorities on 7th of January 2020 and was temporarily named as 2019 nCoV, which was later changed to COVID-19. The composition of the virus is a single-stranded RNA virus. It is about 60 to 140 nanometer in diameter, spreads mainly via respiratory droplets, and generally occurred between close contacts. 80% of homology to SARS-1 was lower in region, critical for neuralization. A picture is visible in the right-hand side of your screen, which shows a diagrammatic representation of the coronavirus. Let's move further. Here is a mutation. Mutations are generally caused because of RNA, because the RNA that are being copied in our bodies, when the virus enters our body, it starts copying and enters into the cells so that it spreads randomly inside our body. If there is a mistake in that copying of RNA, then mutations are visible, which causes several types like Delta, Gamma, and now a new variant known as Omicron has also been discovered, which is very dangerous, and it transmits in a more wider way rather than the Delta and Gamma. So it started from a primary host, bat, and it got transferred to camel, civet, cat, and pangolin, which are referred to as the intermediate host. From camel, we got the MERS-CoV. From civet, cat, and bat, we got the SARS-CoV, and SARS-CoV-2 was given to us by the pangolin and bat. These diseases and these viruses mainly affect our rectum, digestive system, urinary system, respiratory system, and circulatory system. Now I request my friend Adyasha Patnaik to move further in the presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Adyasha Patnaik of 11A, going to describe the symptoms, diagnostic test, and prevention of COVID-19. Now let us start with the symptoms of COVID-19. Now, least common symptoms of COVID-19 are fever, body ache, cough, sore throat, headache, fatigue, loss of taste and smell, etc. But the most serious symptoms of COVID-19 are breathlessness, chest pain, loss of mobility or speech, etc. If you have any of these serious symptoms, then you need to seek immediate medical attention. Now, let us move to the graph related to coronavirus. This graph shows COVID-19 hospitalization rates at the beginning of pandemic. If you see this graph carefully, at the beginning of March, it is 1 lakh and varies to 8 lakh at the end of March. During the month of April, it varies between 8 to 9 lakhs. But at the starting of May, there is a gradual decrease in the rate of hospitalization and it becomes 4 lakh in the mid of June. During the mid of July, It becomes again rises to 9 lakh and gradually decreases to the mid of September. But during the end of September, there is sudden spike in the rate of hospitalization and it becomes 16 lakh at the end of November. COVID-19 affects people in different ways. Some have mild symptoms and moderate symptoms and cure without hospitalization. But this shows the hospitalization at the beginning of the pandemic. Now let us come to the next important topic, transmission of COVID-19. COVID-19 transmits when people breathe in air contaminated by droplets and small airborne particles containing the virus. The risk of breathing these is highest when people are in close proximity, but they can be inhaled over large distances, particularly indoors. Transmission can also occur if splashed or sprayed with contaminated fluids in the eyes, nose, or mouth, and rarely via contaminated surfaces. Transmission can occur in 3 ways. First, contact and droplet transmission. Second, airborne transmission. And third, fomite transmission. Now let us come to the pictorial representation of COVID symptoms and transmissions. You could see here the symptoms of COVID-19, which we have discussed earlier, like headache, fever, fatigue, cough, body aches, sore throat, and breathlessness. If you have these symptoms, how could you test it? It's shown beside this in this graph, in this pictorial representation. And also we are going to discuss it in the next topic. Now let us come to the transmission of SARS-CoV-2 virus. If this virus is asymptomatic or unidentified, which is marked as a red color person, then he or she can transfer it to other healthy persons who are marked as green. There's a rapid transfer of this virus which leads to death. Whereas if the virus is identified, then the person infected is healthy, finally becomes healthy without without the transmission of the virus. Now let us come to the next topic. Diagnostic test. Diagnostic procedure is an examination to identify an individual specific area of weakness and strength in order to determine a condition, disease, or illness. There are 3 types of diagnostic tests. First, antibody test. Antibody or serological test look for antibodies in your blood that fights the virus COVID-19. Antibodies are proteins created by your immune system that help you to fight off infections. Second, molecular test, a diagnostic test that detects genetic material from the virus. RT-PCR is one type of molecular diagnostic test. Third type of diagnostic test is antigen test. It is a rapid diagnostic test suitable for point-of-care testing that directly detects the presence or absence of an antigen. Now let us come to the pictorial representation of diagnostic test. As you can see on your screen, antibodies against SARS-CoV-2 is detected by antibodies test. SARS-CoV-2 genome is detected by molecular test, and SARS-CoV-2 structural proteins or whole virus is detected by antigen tests. Now let us move to the next slide. Prevention. How could I prevent COVID-19? The most important thing we should know. First, let us start. First is social distancing. We should stay at least 1 meter away from the people and even further when indoors. We should wear a mask. Avoid places that are crowded. Wash our hands regularly or use an alcohol-based sanitizer. Stay at home and call your health worker if you are unwell. Cough or sneeze into a tissue or your elbow. Throw the tissue away and wash your hands after. Keep your rooms well ventilated when you are inside with other people. And the last and the most important one, get a COVID-19 vaccine when you are offered. Thank you, everyone. Now I would request my friend Akanksha Vera to take the discussion further.
Thank you, Adesha. Good afternoon, one and all present over here. This is Akanksha of class 11 here with my teammates to share the views on the given topic, how to cure a person when he or she gets infected with COVID-19, the hotspot areas of the world, and the vaccination process. First of all, starting with the topic, cure if we get infected. So let's move up to the
move up to the flow chart that is being visible on your screen. If you come in contact with a person who is affected with COVID-19 since last 14 days, then you will get some symptoms. If you are tested positive, then you should be restricted from your work and uh, and will be kept in the isolation. Here are some certain precautions that you should follow. Isolate yourself in a well ventilated room. Use a triple layer medical mask or discard mask after 8 hours of use or earlier if they become wet or visibly soiled. Masks should be discarded only after disinfecting it with 1% sodium hypochlorite. Take a rest and drink a lot of fluids to maintain adequate hydration. Follow the respiratory etiquettes at all the times. Frequent hand washing with soap and water for at least 40 seconds or clean with alcohol-based sanitizer. Don't share the personal items with other people in the household. And ensure cleaning of surfaces in the room that are touched, often with 1% of hypochlorite solution. Then monitor temperature daily and also oxygen saturation with a pulse oximeter daily. Then moving up to the second slide, that is the hotspot areas of the world. The map here shows an average daily cases per 1 lakh people in the past week. The areas marked in the purple have an average of 68 from 1 lakh. The areas marked in the orange has an average of 20 affected from 1 lakh people. And the areas marked in ochre yellow has 4 COVID cases from 1 lakh COVID. Then moving up to the next slide, that is about the vaccination process. Vaccines save millions of lives each year. Vaccines work by training and preparing the body's natural defenses, that is the immune system, to recognize and fight off the viruses and bacteria they target. After vaccinations, if the body is later exposed to those disease-causing germs, then the body is immediately ready to destroy them, preventing the illness. As of 12 January 2022, WHO has evaluated that the following vaccines against COVID-19 have met the necessary criteria for safety and efficacy. So these are the vaccines: AstraZeneca or Oxford vaccine, Johnson & Johnson, Moderna, Pfizer or BioNTech, Sinopharm, Sinovac, Covaxin, Covovax, Nuvaxovid. Moving up to the next part, that is the conclusion part. The appearance of the 2019 novel coronavirus has added and will continue to add to our understanding of viruses. The pandemic has once again tested the world's preparedness for dealing with such outbreaks. It has prepared an outlook on how a massive scale biological event can cause a socio-economic disturbance to misinformation and the social media. In the coming months and years, we can expect to gain further insights into COVID-19.
Thank you one and all for your patience hearing. The word corona itself says its safety measures. C for clean your hands, O for from gathering, R for raise your immunity, O for only stick to wearing mask, N for no to handshake, and A for avoiding rumors. We are all in this together and we have to fight for it together. Thank you. Have a nice day ahead.
Thank you, Group 1. It was really a very intriguing performance, and all the information that you have given is very good. We'll now move to the next group, the last group of today, which is group number 5, Arpita Senapati, Sarmishtha Mohapatra. We'll move to group number 5, Arpita Senapati and Sarmishtha Mohapatra.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. You can share your screen now. You can start.
Ma'am, is it visible?
Yeah, it is visible, dear. You can continue.
A very good afternoon, everyone, respected judges, teachers, and all my dear friends. Today, our group number 5 is going to present a presentation on COVID-19 virus So let's get started. This is Arpita Sinapati, a student of class 11A, DAV KALINGA, NAGAR, along with my partner Sarvistha.
Good afternoon. This is Sarmishta Mahapatra, student of class 11th A. Today we are going to represent about COVID-19 virus.
Before starting, let's get an overview about what we are going to present. Historic study of epidemic, how is it spread, characteristic of coronavirus, effect of COVID-19 on human beings, mutating properties of COVID-19, is COVID-19 a biological weapon, mechanism of vaccine, coronavirus versus our immune system, effect on our mental health. So the first topic says historic study of epidemic. Intermittent outbreak of infectious disease have had profound and lasting effects on society throughout history. Those events have powerfully shaped the economic, political, and social aspects of human civilization, with their effects often lasting for centuries. Epidemic outbreaks have defined some of the basic tenets of modern medicine, pushing the scientific community to develop principles of epidemiology, prevention, immunization, and antimicrobial treatment. Even in religious texts, which heavily references plagues in this segment, establishes the fundamentals for our understanding of the scope, social, medical, and psychological impact that some epidemic affected on civilization, including the Black Death, a plague outbreak from the 14th century, the Spanish flu in 1918, and more recent outbreaks in 21st century, including SARS, Ebola, and Zika.
How it is spreading. Breathing in air when close to an infected person who is exhaling small droplets and particles that contain virus. These particles containing coronavirus when land on eyes, nose, or mouth of a healthy person, especially through splashes and sprays like cough and or sneeze. Touching eyes, nose, or mouth with hand having virus on them makes them infected too.
Characteristics of coronavirus. Coronavirus disease 2019 is a newly emerging infectious disease currently spreading across the world. It is caused by novel coronavirus, severe acute respiratory syndrome, coronavirus 2, SARS-CoV-2, the spikes S protein of SARS-CoV-2, which plays a key role in receptor recognition and cell membrane fusion process, is composed of two subunits, S1 and S2. The S1 subunit contains a receptor binding domain that recognizes and binds to the host receptor angiotensin converting enzyme 2, while the S2 subunit mediates viral cell membrane fusion by forming six helical bundle via the two heptaded repeat domain. In this review, we highlight recent research, advance in structure, function, and development of antivirus drug.
Effect of COVID-19 on human being. COVID-19 is more likely to go deeper than viruses like common cold. Lungs might become inflamed, making tough for breathing. This leads to pneumonia, an infection of tiny air sacs called alveoli inside the lungs where blood exchange oxygen and carbon dioxide. More complications include acute respiratory distress syndrome (ARDS), multiple organ failure, septic shock, and death.
Despite the virus' sluggish mutation rate, researchers have cataloged more than 12,000 mutations in SARS-CoV-2 genomes. But scientists can spot mutations faster than they can make sense of them. Many mutations will have no consequence for virus ability to spread or cause disease because they do not alter the shape of protein, whereas those mutations that do change protein are more likely to harm the virus lower than improve in it. It's much easier to break something than it is to fix it, says Hodkov, who is the part of NextStrain, an effort to analyze SARS-CoV-2 genome in real time.
Is COVID-19 a biological weapon? Chinese military scientists allegedly investigated weaponizing coronavirus in 2015. They predicted World War III to be fought with biological weapons, according to media reports referring to documents obtained by US State Department. Chinese scientists describe coronavirus, of which COVID-19 is one of the examples, as representing a new era of genetic weapons.
Effects of COVID-19 on the variant. According to severe lab tests now show the Delta variant has stronger resistance to vaccine than other variant. A British study published in the Recent Medical Journal in early June looked at levels of neutralizing antibodies produced in vaccinated people exposed to Delta Alpha, first identified in Britain, Beta, first identified in South Africa variants. It was found that antibody level in people who are with 2 doses of Pfizer BioNTech shot were 6 times lower than in the presence of Delta variant than in the presence of original COVID-19 strain on which the vaccine was based. The alpha and beta variant also provoked lower response with 2.6 times fewer antibodies for alpha and 4.9 times fewer than for beta.
Coronavirus versus our immune system. The immune system has varied ways to fend off viral invaders and keep them from returning. It selects for B cells that produce antibodies capable of binding to virus. It also squirrels away a store of long-lived memory B cells that produce those antibodies and that jumps into action if the virus comes back. Another defense enlists T cells, which patrol body seeking out and destroying affected cells to disrupt the virus ability to replicate. These immune cells can also endure for years.
Effect on our mental health. During the COVID-19 pandemic, you may experience stress, anxiety, fear, sadness, and loneliness. And the mental health disorder, including anxiety and depression, can worsen. Surveys show a major increase in number of US adults who report symptoms of stress, anxiety, depression, and insomnia during the pandemic compared with the surveys before the pandemic. Some people have increased their use of alcohol or drugs, thinking that they can help and that can help them in cope up with their fears about pandemic. In reality, using this substance can worsen anxiety and depression. People with substance use disorders, notably those addicted to tobacco and opioids, are likely to have worsened outcomes if they get COVID-19. That's because these addictions can harm lungs functions and weaken the immune system, causing chronic conditions such as heart disease and lung disease, which increase the risk of serious complication in COVID-19.
Today, the world is facing COVID-19 pandemic and we all are locked in home. But there are still few warriors working for us for our safety. A big salute to the Corona warriors. We thank you from our core of our heart.
But remember, pandemic is not over yet. Stay home, stay safe. With this, we conclude. Thank you.
Very good, Arpita and Sarmishta. I hope you have done very good because you had a little bit of a problem in the beginning, but now it's very nice. You have delivered very good. So lastly, we've come to the end of the seminar. I would request Deepshikha to kindly deliver the vote of thanks. Deepshikha, kindly deliver the vote of thanks. Deepshikha Mohanty, over to you.
Thank you, ma'am. So with this, we come to the end of our biology seminar. I would like to convey my heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed judge, Ms. Madhushmita Tarai from DV Public School NTPC Kaneha, for ensuring a fair competition. I would like to thank our principal sir for providing us this opportunity to discuss about the topic, which is the world to its knees. I would like to thank our supervisor ma'am, Shashmita ma'am, Manoranjan sir, the seminar in charge, and Jisha ma'am from bio department who contributed a lot and made this event a successful one. I would also like to take a moment to thank our technical team who have been here with us since the beginning of the session to ensure the smooth conduction of this event. Last but not the least, I would like to thank our participants who, irrespective of this pandemic, delivered their best performances through virtual mode and enthralled this event with optimism, positivity, and knowledge. With this, I, Dipshika Mohanty, a student of class 12, would like to sign off. Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you, everyone. Ma'am, thank you so much for joining and encouraging our students. A very much heartfelt thanks to you from here, DAV Public School, KALINGA.
You have got a very wonderful set of students who could do a lot of exploration, a lot of research and come up with so much of, so nice presentation and beautiful presentation. Really hats off to all the students. And thank you, ma'am, for inviting me. It's really a very worth spending time, but time is a constraint for me now. Thank you so much for inviting me. Really, I'm very much happy about it.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Namaskar.